sharp lake in Michigan listening to the vivid stories of his grandparents, recalling their youth in the northern wilderness. Ever since his earliest days, he loved storytelling. Todd left Savannah in 1982 and attended the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where he studied aeronautical engineering. Upon graduation in 1986, he immediately left the Academy for flight school. His initial assignment was flying combat search and rescue helicopters at Elmond Air Force Base in Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. In the unique, harsh Arctic environment, that is the term that they use for the missions that he flew. He flew local rescue missions and was also deployed throughout Asia. During his time, he was credited with saving many lives and even more assists. In addition to flying exciting missions, Todd also managed to graduate from the University of Alaska Anchorage with an MS degree in engineering management. In 1990, he volunteered for special operations and went back to flight school. In 1991, he was assigned to the 20th Special Operations Squadron at Hurlburt Field, Florida, flying MH-53J Hayes low helicopters. Immediately, he was deployed to Kuwait. For the next 3 years, he was active in classified missions in support of counterterrorism under the control of the National Command Authority and deployed throughout the world. His customers included SEAL Team 6 and Delta Force. He left the Air Force as captain in 1994. During his hectic period in his life, he found time to write his first novel, The Ultimate Solution, which was never published. He did publish an article in the Armed Forces Journal in 1994 on special operations aviation. 1994 found Todd joining an investment bank and earning a chance to expand his knowledge of his passion, finance. During his second career, he became highly knowledgeable in emerging markets, fixed income, and traveled a great deal internationally with a focus on the Caribbean. He has conducted business in over 40 different countries. He became acutely aware of the consequence of economic decisions and their effect on national and economic security. However, Todd's love for storytelling was uncontrollable. He left the financial business in 2011 to write Currency, was published in December of that year. Once he began typing, he never stopped. Todd is a contributor to Fox Business News, New York Post, the Moscow Times, Armed Forces Journal, Newmax Money News, National Review, Zero Hedge, and others. He splits his time between New York City and Moscow. His first published novel, Currency, has been very well received and has collected many positive reviews. Todd recently published his second book entitled Sugar, another historical fiction thriller. Sugar deals with energy policy and government corruption. Connor Murray is back. Todd's love of storytelling is infectious, said one reader at a recent book signing. Once you start reading, you can't stop. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to our guest speaker today, Mr. Todd Wood.
I'm only going to talk for about an hour, so don't worry. No, that's a joke. When John asked me to speak, I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about, but I'll get to that in a minute. I want to give you a brief, he's already gone over my bio, but I just want to briefly go over some things that led me to kind of where I am today. As he said, grew up in Savannah, and I really had no idea that I wanted to go into the military, but this guy kept coming around me. School in my house was a friend of my father's, and he kept asking me if I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy. And I had really no desire to do that whatsoever, but I humored him and filled out all the paperwork and did the medical and did the interviews. And I'd kind of forgotten about it, and in April of my senior year, I got a call from Senator Nunn in Washington. He said, "You want to go to the Academy?" And I said, "Okay, sure." And I can remember getting on the plane and thinking what a great time I'm going to have. And this is going to be so much fun. And 4 years later, I can honestly say the Academy is a great place to visit, but you wouldn't want to live there. So I went to flight school in LA, not Los Angeles, but Lower Alabama. And I flew combat rescue for a while, and then I wanted to go into special operations. It's why I chose helicopters out of the Academy. I actually had a general at the Academy tell me I didn't pay $500,000 for you to learn how to fly a helicopter, because the Air Force was ruled by the fighter pilot mafia at that time. But after 9/11, that all changed, and special operations really became the show. But Went back to flight school for a year and a half and learned how to fly the MH-53 Pablo, which is a wonderful aircraft. It's kind of a Battlestar Galactica of helicopters. It had GPS, which was classified at the time, and lots of weapons and electronic countermeasures, terrain following radar, forward-looking infrared. And our job was to get SEAL Team 6 or Delta in and out of any situation, anywhere in the world, anytime, plus or minus 5 seconds. So that was our goal. I got assigned to the 20th Special Operations Squadron in Hurlburt Field in Florida. And I walked into the squadron and into the commander's office the first day, and I'll never forget this. Colonel Rich Comer, crusty old colonel at the time, he said, "Captain, I got 3 things I want to tell you." He said, "Number 1, I want you to be combat ready. I don't care about your paperwork. I want you to be able to fight 24/7. He said, "Number 2, don't mess around with your buddy's wife while he's deployed. Number 3, he said, if you ever lie to me, if you make a mistake, own up to it and come to me, we'll deal with it. But if you ever lie to me, I'll out-process you on the steps of the squadron and you'll never set foot in this building again." So that's kind of stuck with me my whole life. So as I became, like I said, I didn't want to really go into the Air Force or the military. I really didn't know what I was getting into. But as I grew and understood and learned what that means to be a military officer, and when they hand you the presidential commission that says the President of the United States has appointed you a line officer in the U.S. military, that really hits you. And it's a lot of responsibility because you really have the authority to send guys to their deaths if you deem that's necessary to protect the country. So over time, I became more and more aware of Memorial Day and what it means. And I want to read you something. It's pretty short, but most people haven't heard of it. It's called the Code of Conduct of the U.S. Fighting Man. There is a gender-neutral version out now, but this one is the one I learned a long time ago, so I'm just going to read this one. It says, Article 1, Code of Conduct for the U.S. Fighting Man. Article 1, I am an American fighting man. I guard my country and her way of life. I am prepared to give my life in their defense. Article 2, I will never surrender of my own free will. If in command, I will never surrender my men while they still have the means to resist. Article 3, if I am captured, I will continue to resist by all means available. I will make every effort to escape and to aid others to escape. I will accept neither parole nor special favors from the enemy. Article 4, if I become a prisoner of war, I will keep faith with my fellow prisoners. I will give no information or take part in any action which might be harmful to my comrades. If I am senior, I will take command. If not, I will obey the lawful orders of those appointed over me and will back them up in every way. Article 5, when questioned, should I become a prisoner of war, I am bound to give only name, rank, service number, and date of birth. I will evade answering further questions to the utmost of my ability. I will make no oral or written statements disloyal to my country and its allies or harmful to its cause. Article 6, I will never forget I am an American fighting man, responsible for my actions and dedicated to the principles which made my country free. I will trust in my God and in the United States of America. So, as a pilot in the Air Force, when you join or go to flight school, you have to complete before that, it's called survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training. And it's called SERI. And they give you survival school, but then they put you for me it was in the mountains of Colorado for about a week. They give you a story that you're shot down, and then you're chased by a bunch of bad guys for about a week. And then eventually you're captured and you're put in a prisoner of war camp, simulated for a week. And they generally abuse you and give you no sleep and make you feel pain in ways that don't leave a scar, and try to teach you how to resist the enemy if you're captured. And I'll never forget I'd been in the prisoner of war camp for about a week, and the commandant of the camp brought us out into the yard, and kind of like Hogan's Heroes, where you form up and you report and you count who's there. And he started telling a story. He said, you guys are weak, you got captured, you don't have any honor, you're here, but I want to tell you a real story of honor. And he proceeded to tell this story. Captain Lance Sijon was 26 years old when he was flying his 52nd combat mission in Vietnam. As he dropped his ordnance, the bombs exploded underneath his aircraft. He ejected, he was able to eject, the backseater was not so lucky. He landed in the jungle, He had a fractured skull. His thigh bone was sticking out of his leg. His right arm is mangled. And the rescue helicopters tried to find him, come and save him. They spent 12 hours trying to get to him, got shot away. One helicopter was shot down. Finally, one aircraft got overhead and dropped a penetrator down in the jungle, and they were going to send a PJ, or a pararescue van, down to get him. And he said, no, I'll crawl to the penetrator, just send it down, I'll get there. They hovered for 30 minutes over his sight, and he never came. They got shot away and they had to leave. He evaded capture in a limestone karst area on the side of a mountain for 46 days with no food or water. He crawled along the ground. His hip bones were protruding through his skin, crawling on the rocks. After 46 days, he was captured. 2 hours later, he overpowered the guard and escaped. They beat him senseless, took him to another camp. He escaped again. So then they took him to the Hanoi Hilton and beat him and tortured him for weeks. They put him in a room with a couple other POWs, and one of them said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Don't you recognize me, guy? And I was your roommate at the academy." So they tortured him some more, and finally one day his friend said, "Where's Sajan?" And they said, "Sajan's dead." So on Memorial Day, you need to think about what people have gone through. He was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. As Thomas Jefferson so famously said, from time to time, the tree of liberty has to be watered by the blood of patriots. And I'll take one quote from the movie Gladiator at the end, when they're carrying off his body. These were soldiers of America. Who is going to honor them with me? Thank you.